Definitely looks like Nintendo is the only one that's going to be able to save physical games. Honestly, this is something that has already begun if you were to take a look at everything. So first off, let's jump in our car real quick and make our way over to the physical store. The physical store is definitely something that you want to go and pick up a game of your choice. You'll realize something when you walk in. You realize that PlayStation and Xbox games have barely any. It's pretty much like crickets made their way into the store and essentially made it their new home. But with Nintendo, it is beautiful. It's like the mid-2000s all over again with games upon games upon games, which is absolutely fantastic. And this isn't the only reason why Nintendo has already begun to save us with physical games. Because if you were going to look at it, it doesn't seem like they're going to be ditching this anytime soon. In fact, it seems like they're developing the technology to make the cartridges faster and also make smaller size cartridges, which we've already seen this. It seems like they just made a 32GB cartridge and a 16GB cartridge, which means more third-party games could pay less to put their game on the physical cartridge. And it also means that maybe we'll see the erasure of game keycards. If you don't need game keycards right now holding the plot for cheaper games, it means that potentially all of these things will be physical once again. And this is something that many Nintendo fans, or in fact many video game fans, want to see as a whole. If we were going to take a look at Twitter real quick, you'll realize that the entire caveat to this is having nothing, owning nothing, and being happy. That is one of the big problems here, because if you were going to look at it, if you really truly were going to look at it, once they get rid of physical media, well then there's no other ways to buy your games. You are stuck. You are completely stuck. Because right now, I've been finding so many deals. So later in November, I was planning to get an Xbox. And I was like, you know what? I actually own my physical games here or whatever. So then I go on Facebook Marketplace and realize that all the Xbox games are like $20. Some of them are 10. I kid you not. Like you can get modern AAA titles for like $10 to $20, which is absolutely insane, by the way. So obviously with physical media, you can take your game, you own that thing to the absolute end of time. And plus, an account managing system is not something you want to see. In fact, we have two examples of this entire thing. I tried to find one of Nintendo, couldn't really find one so far, so let's just go with these two examples. So first, if we were to take a look at PlayStation's terms of service over here, they're definitely really interesting. It seems like they might delete your account if you didn't use it for 3 years. So let's just say that you bought games through 2015 all the way to 2022, and then you just didn't buy any games, didn't play anything for 3 years after that, so until 2026. Well, then they'll email you a bunch of times. If you still don't answer within 6 months, they might just delete your account. So that means all your games are just completely vanished. I believe this is only in the UK right now, but still, these are your hard-earned games that you worked so hard to get, and now they're just poof out of existence like they never existed in the first place. We also have Xbox having something really interesting. It seems like from this post, they did get their account back, but this just shows that if you don't have a big social media presence or anything, you can't make a big stink of it online, so obviously your games would be gone either way. Plus, Nintendo really seems to be taking advantage with this whole situation. In fact, they won by doing absolutely nothing. Many of you say, yeah, this is pretty much the Luigi situation, where you play as Mario, Mario wins all the time, Luigi is kind of standing by, and he also wins. So it definitely makes sense in that analogy. Also, if we were going to take a look at the other things leading into Nintendo, the reason why they're most likely not going to be getting rid of physical media, not only because they're developing extra cartridges, because they're developing cartridge size, because they have the disc slot and stuff, but they're also working on something really interesting that I found and thought that I should mention. So, if we were going to take a look at this right here, you'll realize that this is a patent, right? A patent on what exactly? It seems like this is on a brand new dock. A dock that allows your Nintendo Switch 1 and your Switch 2 to go dock together. Now, why does this matter? Well, it matters because for a long time, Nintendo fans actually wished that the Nintendo Switch 1 could fit in the Switch 2 dock. So, this might not mean anything to physical games, but if you were to look at it, it really seems like Nintendo might actually be listening to the consumer, listening to the fans about what they want. Because this right here is actually fantastic. We always wanted something as Zelda Ocarina of Time Reborn. This could have been Nintendo's plan all along, but maybe it seems a little bit convincing that, hey, they decide to release it in 2026 due to the 40th anniversary. Overall, it definitely seems like Nintendo is the only one right now that is definitely listening to in fact, with Nintendo's sort of statement or stay on physical media and the fact that it seems like they're not going to be getting rid of anything because it's kind of part of their brand. Think about it this way, if there's no physical games, well then that means that there's no Nintendo store. Without a Nintendo store, that means that there's no like Nintendo sort of big home when it comes to merchandise. Because if there's no games inside the Nintendo store, yes, of course, there's still going to be a lot of business going to this place. But without the games and the product, there wouldn't be really a point, if that makes sense. But overall, all of those things are to say that maybe Nintendo started a trend on saving us once again. Because one of the big things that has just happened to PlayStation and Xbox is the fact that Xbox might be keeping the disk drive. They are developing some sort of technology that allows you to put a physical game inside the disc slot or whatever of a Xbox and then turning that game into a digital license. Now this is definitely really cool because then it means that you will be able to save your physical games. And potentially without the fear of Nintendo staying on physical games, Xbox would have done the same thing. Don't you think that this makes sense? Because then already a whole bunch of people are jumping ships to Nintendo to play games that they actually own. And honestly, this is definitely great to see because you don't want to do some business with people that are going to get rid of the one thing that consumers actually own, the right to own your game. In fact, one of the big PC stores have recently spoken out about this entire thing. So, the name is GOG. And if you don't own anything on PlayStation and Xbox and that really annoys you and scares you, well then just jump ship to PC because you might actually own something. GOG doesn't have any DRMs, or anything in fact, and this is definitely fantastic, which means you can buy a game from there, download it without the installer or anything, and just play that game. In fact, you can burn it to a disc if you wanted to. So I honestly think that this is the savior of gaming. Nintendo has probably just started the entire saving, the entire trend because hey, all their games are still in stores. Their games are still fully physical, which means you take the game from directly the store and you put it in. There's nothing required. There's no DRMs required for the physical games. There's nothing required at all, besides if you're going digital or if you're going game keycards. And it definitely seems like Nintendo might stop game keycards relatively soon, which is definitely fantastic. They might be finding something cheaper to put games on. They might be finding something with lower sort of gigabytes to put something on. Maybe they'll be finding a like 6 gigabyte cartridge or an 8 gigabyte cartridge for even smaller games. Then it would save even more money for companies to put the games on, and there you go. Overall, what are your thoughts on all this? Do you think that the saving has actually begun or not at all? I definitely find it really interesting. With you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Consider it that like button. Maybe subscribing if you're new. We do a bunch of different Nintendo content on the channel. Mario, Zelda, Pokemon. Consider to hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 5,555 before my birthday. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.